evening from Vietnam. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Navid. Thanks a lot for spending your afternoon to join our show and share your stories and wisdom to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners around the world, we want to say thank you to you.
Thank you, Ha, for having me on the show, and I'm super stoked to have this conversation with you and reach a broader base of listeners through that.
And you've been traveling to many countries in the world, around the world, right? You've been to Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, many countries that are very close to Vietnam, but yet going to Vietnam, and now you have a new friend, new family. So if you decided to travel to this country, please let us know. We would love to meet you in person. We would love to take you out and show you our people, our city, and absolutely the food here also.
For sure, for sure. I've been traveling to 60 plus countries, but unfortunately, Vietnam has not been on that list yet. But there's more to look forward to. So, yeah, for sure, I will do that.
Absolutely. And for a little taste of our culture in here, it would be very honored if we can have you to share a little bit about who you are and the work you are doing. Would you please do that honor for us?
Sure. So, I have spent 52 years of my life living and working in 5 countries. And it's our second stint here in the UAE. I've had 2 stints in the UK, 1 stint in Iran, 1 stint in Switzerland, and Germany is the country I spent most of my time growing up, going to school, studying, and also this is the country where most of my family lives. So that's been kind of my global story. But more practically speaking, I have spent 26 years working professionally for, some of the world's most admired companies. And I've done that at the country, at the regional, at the global level. And about 3 years ago, when my book launched, it became a big success, really unexpectedly. And I had to make a hard decision, which is, do I want to carry on doing what I was enjoying doing at that time, which was full-time working in HR. I was working for a wonderful company called Vodafone, which is a telecommunication company, the most international telecommunication company in the world at the time, and really enjoying my role. And on this side, I was doing a little bit of executive coaching and a little bit of writing. And when the book launched, I had suddenly all this excitement coming my way. I had random people that I met 10 years ago at the airport lounge calling me up and saying, hey, we got this leadership conference. Would you mind coming and doing a speech? Hey, we got this, whatever show. And I'm a podcast host. I would love to have you on my show. And I suddenly realized that I would not be able to do most of those things. And it sort of forced me in a positive way to make a decision, which is, do I want to carry on doing what I'm doing and keep those kind of passion projects of mine, on the side, or do I want to take those passion projects of mine and go all in? And so on my vision board at the time, I had a big tagline cut out from a magazine that said, if not now, when? And I really, it was a bit scary. I won't lie about it. To leave the comfortable life of a corporate executive. I was an international assignee. The company really looked after me as an expat. And that being said, I really felt I would never know what it's like if I didn't jump. And I did jump ship 3 years ago. I moved with the family to the UAE, and the rest is history, as we say.
Wow. Navid, you have a phenomenal journey traveling to 60 plus countries, right? Living 5 countries and having best-selling books and help leaders to get better, get ahead in their life, right? And you introduced to us I noted here in my clock in here is less than 3 minutes. That's not fair for our audience. And that's why this conversation is designed to dive in deeper, to help our audience to know more about your dreams and the journey leading to what you do today. So how's time travels? How to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to time travel, I have been lucky in a way that no matter what the universe presented me with, I found a way to deal with it. I mean, one of the hardest adjustments for me was as a 13-year-old child, when I learned from my parents at the time. I was living in Iran, I was born in Iran, that they wanted to send me out of the country. And at that time, we had a war going on between Iran and Iraq for 6 years, and there was no end in sight. And they felt that it's the best thing for me to kind of leave. And so, can you imagine as a 13-year-old coming home from school and suddenly having this bizarre conversation with your parents and learning about the fact that you will be living and working in a different country without your parents initially, and hopefully they will be able to join you. So it was, as there's a saying in Germany, which is like throwing someone into the cold water and then having them to figure out to swim. That's how I felt at the time. But again, fast forward 40 plus years from there, and it all worked out fine. And so, yeah, sometimes we may not like what is happening to us and what we are finding ourselves in. And that being said, with a little bit of optimism, with a little bit of work, and a little bit of being able to relate to other people, we'll eventually come out of it. And it may leave a little bit of a scar here and there, but the reality is we will actually appreciate those because they make us, uniquely who we are.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to dive even further to 13 years old. Okay. I'll lead the way and then we take it from there. So, when I was born in the middle of, in a city in the middle of Vietnam. So if you travel here, probably we're gonna travel to my hometown called Da Nang city. So that is where all the wars in Vietnam devastate most in my city, right? And we grow up very poor in a poor city, in poor community, even in a poor family. And one night we had electricity. The next night or two we did not have electricity. So speaking is it's dark everywhere, right? So my first dream about the work that I was going to do is to become an astronaut, traveling to the moon, and be able to enjoy the bright side of the moon, the sun, the lights everywhere, right? But life did not give me any opportunity to do something like that. Except I've been interviewing lots of astronauts. One of them actually came to the moon on Apollo mission 16. So Navid, when you were little, what was your first dream about your future works, the thing that you are going to do when you grow up?
So this must have been at the age of 4 or 5. I apparently couldn't decide. So when my parents and my family members asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I had 3 ideas about those. The first one was I wanted to become a lorry driver because I really liked big cars. The second one was I wanted to become a construction worker because apparently I enjoyed playing with the sand a lot as a child. And the third one was I wanted to become a pilot, but not like a commercial airline pilot, but a jet fighter pilot. And as they say, yeah, you kind of all the dreams when you're a child, but it all depends on where you grow into and how it develop. And so thankfully, I did not become a lorry driver or a construction worker. And unfortunately, I didn't make it to become a jet fighter pilot. So yeah, I turned out to become a HR leader and now a coach and an author.
Wow, wow. So at 13 years old, when your parents sent you to Germany, right?
Yes.
And so you went there alone by yourself, study, living, and eventually working there before they arrived. So at that moment, what do you think about the future works that you are going to do? Would that be a construction worker, a jet fighter, or driver?
Yeah. See, I mean, I moved out myself, but I wasn't entirely on my own. I had three aunties and an uncle living in Germany at the time, and that was why my parents decided to send me to Germany. At least we had some family there.
Mm.
And eventually they were able to join me. So about a year later, when they joined me, we then kind of reunited as a family. But it was hard because I mean you said you grew up in a kind of not a rich family and so on and so forth. I would say we were probably some sort of a middle class family at the time. I mean my mom had a PhD, my dad had a master's degree. Almost every single person in our family is somehow educated in some form or shape. And so we were not rich, we were not poor, but we had a, decent lifestyle. And of course, this all changed when I moved to Germany and when my parents joined me, because of course they could not continue their jobs the way they used to do them back home. And so we suddenly, I guess became poor. And so that was a hard landing. I mean, if you don't have much, then you're not used to much. But if you have a very comfortable life and suddenly you have to go all the way back kind of to the basement and kind of start to work your way up from there, that is tough, but it also teaches you a lot around resilience, grit, and really the ability to be able to bounce back as and when you're ready.
Your parents can come in a very educational family. So what did they do for can you share with us?
Yes, so my mom had a PhD and she was a pharmacist, and but didn't work in a pharmacy store. She worked in a lab, and my father had a communications degree, so he worked as a PR expert.
Ah, and then when you left the country, and then since when they moved with you?
This was many years ago. So they moved to Germany 1 year later, 1 year after I had left. So for that 1 year period, I was kind of with my rest of the family, and I was rotating between those.
And how did you feel?
Look, I mean, it was what it was at the time. I was going to school. I was trying to make the best out of the situation. I was obviously missing my relatives and my first degree family members, but it was just due to the situation that was ongoing back home in our country, and there was no other way around it. So it was a hard one to accept, but yeah, I didn't have really much choice.
And then moving from Iran to Germany. All
Yeah.
right, and then when your family reunited a year later, right? Absolutely, the dreams that you had when you were at 4 years old totally changed in the new country, in the new place. So how did that dream evolve at like 14, 14, 15?
Yes. I guess what I stopped thinking about is what do I want to become 10, 15 years down the line. I was much more short-term focused. I wanted to improve my German language skills. I wanted to, excel at the school. I wanted to start to get some first-hand experience in the job market. So I stopped kind of looking far out and thinking and dreaming about all these various options. And I was a lot more kind of on the money to think about, okay, 1 year from now, where I want to be, maybe 2, 3 years, but that was maximum the outlook. So it really forced me to kind of, yeah, take a step back and think about the tomorrow and not worry about what happens day after tomorrow in a way.
So how could that vision of tomorrow looking being able to leading you to like traveling the world and doing like a high level at international companies like that, share with us.
Well, this happened all a lot later, to be
Mm.
perfectly honest. So I had not traveled to many countries. I think at the age of 18, I had my first trip to the US. So I flew to New York City, and that was nice because it was so different than Hamburg, which is my other hometown, and Tehran for sure. So these were the only two towns that I knew well. And so, yeah, it all evolved later. I mean, it started with business trips as part of my roles, and later on, it became a hobby of mine to also use my holidays and kind of spare time to travel to different countries, learn about different cultures.
Right.
But it all didn't happen overnight. I will turn 53 very soon, so I had obviously a lot of time to do all those things.
When is your birthday?
Later in November.
Later in November. So I make sure that I'll release this conversation in late of November so that we can celebrate your birthday together. Okay.
Great.
All right. So I think that when I screen at your profile, you didn't start your career HR person, didn't
Mhm.
you?
That's right. Yes. I
Ah,
actually, yeah, that was a, let's say, a point of debate at
ah,
our home with my parents at the time because when I finished my school in the year 94, I did not go immediately to study. And that was a lot of explanation I needed to provide as to why not? I mean, I had very good scores. I certainly could have studied immediately if I wanted to do that, but I was just so tired of this thing called school and learning and writing and reading. So I really felt, and I did promise to my parents at the time, I said, look, it's not like I'm not going to study forever. I just don't feel like, again, continuing with books and writing and reading and learning. So I took those couple of years out to experiment with the world of work. And I spent 6 years in total working in sales capacity. So I did 3 years in a retail outlet store. So I did B2C sales. And then the other 3 years on the back end of that, I worked in an event venue, and I was marketing the event venue and selling it to corporate. So that was B2B sales. And I was pretty good at it. One thing I appreciated about working as a sales leader is that you are very transparent. Your output can be measured very effectively, even at the national level. So I was very, very good at it, but I discovered my passion for human resources. And it was really hard at the time, huh? I mean, I graduated. So, and kind of fast forward, I did eventually start my studies in the year 1998. I did study for 4 years. I did my master's in international management, foreign trade, which was pretty generalistic if you think of it. It wasn't finance or it wasn't HR or it wasn't marketing. It had all those aspects included. So I could have really gone to any other function if I wanted to. I could have obviously also carried on in sales because I had prior work experience there. But of course, I had discovered my passion for the HR function. And in the year 2002, when I really badly wanted to move from sales with my study of 4 years of international management to move into HR, at that time, nobody wanted to give me a chance. And so I had to apply at that time, mostly also manual applications where you had to print out, documents and sign them and put them into an envelope and ship them. Um, I got a lot of rejections, and sometimes if the HR person was kind enough, they would ring me up and say, "Hey, I saw your application for whatever the entry level HR role. We have great opportunities in sales, and I'm keen to have a conversation with you about those." And I'm like, "Look, did you not read my cover letter? Because there's a reason I am actually arguing for moving to the people function. I think I can have a more systemic impact working in HR, especially given that I have worked in sales for 6 years and I've studied this thing. So I really feel I can add a lot more value in the people function than in the sales department. Anyway, as they say, and as the famous song from Eminem says, it only takes one chance, one opportunity. It really took one opportunity by a very kind lady. Her name is Dania Frech. She was the head of HR for global operations with Adidas at that time. And she brought me in and she said, look, I won't be lying to you. It will be a very controversial hire because every single other HR person we hire has prior HR experience. But my kind of line of defense is you are the first person that I'm hiring into HR, into the lowest level possible. My job title was assistant HR manager. But you will be the first HR person that I'm hiring into HR that has actually previously sold our products. So you have kind of, done the customer journey and you have done this thing. And so, yeah, well, the rest is history because I had 20 wonderful years in HR on the back end of that first HR position that was kindly granted to me at the time.
Wow. No, you did something that is really, really in the opposite of a lot of people there. And when normally if they've been 6 years in one industry, in one function, normally they spend many more years to sharpen their career in that direction. Then you decided to move into HR and start at very low level in our organization and move that ladder up. So that is very beautiful and bold also. And that's big words that you use there is the word discovered your passion,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? A lot of people living have no passion at all on what they do. No, nothing that they, is, and every day is a day for them to looking for that. So we would love to hear from you so that we can help them to discover that what they love doing. So back then, 1998 or something, that you've discovered your passion. Tell us, how did you do that?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, what most people forget is if you work in a function outside of HR, you will be a customer to the HR function, right? So you will have a lot of interaction with HR. And to be perfectly honest, I had very mixed views about this function initially because I will remember that situation. I will always remember that situation. It was really embarrassing. Our HR, two of our HR people are coming to us in the sales function and trying to teach us how to sell more effectively. And it was very obvious to us that those two individuals had never sold a thing in their life, and they had just looked up something in the book and they're trying to kind of make it work. So I've had those experiences, but I've also had great experiences. I mean, one of my better experiences working with the HR function was I was a student at the time, and I was working on the side because I had to earn my own living. And this is the one thing I learned when I moved to Germany. I started working at the age of 14 because I said, I will not accept the fact that I have to let go of all these things that I had been used to prior to coming to Germany. And if I have to make up for it, I will make up for it. So as a 14-year-old, I was a paper boy with my bicycle, distributing the newspapers and doing all sorts of different jobs. But the reality is, the better HR experience I had was I was in charge of, this was just before the boom and bust of the new economy. So this is in the year 99, 2000. As a student, I was assigned a very big project with one of the largest entertainment companies in the world, Bertelsmann. It's a publishing house, one of the largest in Europe. And at that time, they also owned America Online and all sorts of different businesses. They had Game Channel and sports, divisions and all sorts of different things. And they put me in charge of a big portal, and that portal was www.gamechannel.de, which was the largest gaming platform in Germany at the time. And anyway, so I was a full-time student. I was a part-time project manager for this portal. And I think I was in that, I was assigned that project something like a day or two, and then my phone rang, and this lovely HR lady ringing me up and saying, "Hey, I saw that you're the new project lead. I happen to know that you have two vacant positions on that project, and I was wondering if I could just drop by and introduce myself briefly." And I was surprised because, she was proactive, which was something I had not seen before a lot from HR people. So she then, came up to my floor. I think it was on the second floor. She was on the ground floor. So she came up and said, "Hey, I have drafted up those two job descriptions for you to be posted. Can you take a look and give me any final input before I put them live?" And by the way, what is your experience in interviewing? And that was like my aha moment, because up until that point, I had only been a candidate in interview processes. I had never interviewed. I had never sat on the other side of the table. So I was humble enough to admit to her that my, interview experience is zero. And she said, I know you're busy. I know you're a full-time student. Why don't I set up a 2-hour crash course on the essentials that you must get right when you interview candidates as a line manager? And that was really like, my goodness, she was proactive. She was not only offering support, but she actually delivered on that. And she really helped me to get a different perspective about the HR department and some of its, people. And that was kind of my intrigue when I thought, oh my goodness, HR can also be like this. They can be strategic, they can be super enabling, they can be helping the line managers and the other employees in the organization in a big way. And so that was kind of my intrigue. And then I was obviously hooked. So I went on to the library. I read a couple of HR books. I did even some HR internships, but in the eye of those big HR departments, that didn't really count as a full-fledged HR experience. So that was why I was having a hard time to land into an HR role in the year 2002.
So the lady at Adidas, her name is Danielle.
Dania Frech. Dania Frech.
Danielle. How do I write it? Because I think it's really hard for me to
Yeah,
speak her
no
name.
problem. I can enter it into the chat for you.
Yes.
That's how to spell her name.
Okay. Danielle French, right?
Yes.
Alrighty. Wow. I think that sometimes we need the people to go above the traditional of hiring to give people the opportunity, because if you don't do that, if you didn't do that, then the world is missing one amazing gentleman that can help leaders get better with you. So later on, did you have a conversation with her, asking her, like, why did she give you the opportunity like that?
Well, she did tell me. She said,
Uh,
look, you have sold our products previously. This
uh,
is a big plus, and you have been a customer to the HR, people before. So you know what it feels like to be sitting on the other side and feeling what the HR support is like. So I trust you will do a good job. And I was obviously very keen not to let her down, because she gave me that very unique opportunity to prove myself in the HR function. And allow me also to say that, I mean, I was in a small team, but nobody from my colleagues gave me any cookie points for the fact that I spent 6 years in sales. I had to perform right from day one, like all the other HR graduates, right? And so it was not even like, oh, well, you're still the new kid on the block, you can take your time. No, I was not giving any of that. And so I had to prove myself from day one, which was a good thing, which is a good thing.
and then for 20 something years in that one. So that new kid on the block, right, now has been, running global role. And if you can look back at your journey in HR, what are some secrets that you want to share with us that contributing to your success?
Mm. So one of the things that one of my mentors told me early in my sales career, it really taught me things I had never thought of before. And they may be super simple kind of lessons, life lessons or lessons in leadership, whatever you want to call them. But I really thought that they were a game changer to me and to the way I lead. So the first one was, when I started selling those products in this retail outlet, it was called International Sports. That was the name of that retail outlet. And we would sell, fashion items, sport items, sneakers or trainers, and all sorts of different accessories. I said, look, I've never sold in my life, and I really want to do a good job. So do you have any words of wisdom for me? And he said, yeah, I have a few. The first one is, You do not have to be the best in anything, including sales. All you have to do is to get better at it every single day. So that really took away all this anxiety that I had, which was like, oh my goodness, I'm just the new kid on the block. I've never sold anything and I really want to do a good job. How do I go about selling? That really took away all this anxiety that we sometimes have, which is like, oh, you're not born with a selling gene? Oh, bad luck. You cannot do this then. So that was the first hint or tip or advice he shared with me. So you don't have to be the best in anything. You just have to be the best in getting better every single day. The second tip that he shared with me was put yourself in the shoes of your customer and truly understand from their angle what is it that they truly want. Again, I guess you could get the same out of a chat GPT if you wanted to ask for sales advice, but the reality is it really opened my eyes in ways that I didn't think possible. One of them was if you were a customer of mine, so if I'm in that retail outlet, you just walk in and you're looking for a black CK shirt with a logo on top and this and that. If I do not have that product item to sell to you, of course, the general wisdom would say, "Oh, have you thought about buying a black polo shirt? It's actually much nicer than the CK one, and it looks much better on you. Try this on." And so that actually meant when you are really keen on this particular product, I would actually tell you where to buy that, and clearly we don't have it in store. And that would make you a return customer to me because you realize on that day, in that moment, that I really want you to get to what you want to and not because I have some targets to hit and I'm just flogging something over to you and make the sell and not caring about what you actually wanted when you achieved, when you approached me. And then the third wisdom that he shared with me was really something interesting. He said, look, and he was an amateur football player. He said, look, when you train with the pros, even if you are only observing them, you will improve your performance over time. So essentially what he meant was when you are in this branch of our retail outlet, there are 5 to 6 salespeople around. Some are outstanding in what they do, and others are average, and some aren't really good at what they do. Make sure you get close to those top performers, top sellers, what have you, because you will learn, and even if you're observing them in action, you will learn things that you can make your own in your own authentic way. And so those 3 things are what I call life lessons. And whether I was in HR, in a country role, in a global role, in a regional role, in this industry, in that industry, one of the fun facts about my 26 years working for large corporates is that I never repeated the industry. So I moved from retail to events to sporting goods, Adidas, then to commercial finance. That was with GE, General Electric. At the time I joined them in the year 2005, it was the world's most admired company on the planet. Then I moved to another company, BAT is the name, and they're a fast-moving consumer goods company. From there, I moved to a pharmaceutical company based out of Switzerland called Roche, which is the top 5 pharmaceutical company on the planet. And then I moved to Vodafone, which is a telecommunication company. So I made it extra hard for myself because I couldn't really apply any industry insights into the same industry in another company. But I really learned how to transition successfully from industry to industry to industry to industry. I did that 6 times over. So yeah, and coming back to your original question, what are some of the lessons? What are some of the thoughts you have? It all boils down to those 3 things. It's all about creating value and having a long-lasting impact, and the rest will take care of itself.
Wow. Wow. Do me one favor, okay? Bring me to that moment that you sat with that manager that you asked for
Yes.
wisdom. You were young and naive, right? You were young and
Yeah.
naive at your first job as sales.
Yes.
And normally, his name is Michael, right? Michael
Michael
Klein.
Klein. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you reach out to him and ask for advice on how you could get better and can become a better person, adding values to their operations, right? I don't think that a lot of people that at that age would do the same. What made you do that?
Look, I guess it was curiosity. It was my kind of inner voice that wanted to do a good job, to be a good employee. It was also partly due to my ambition, right? I wanted to be among the best in whatever I do. And I don't have to be the best right from day one, but I will eventually get there. So it was a combination of all those things, I guess.
Wow. And why did you choose Michael?
Well, he was a senior guy. He had been in sales for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. He was actually in charge of, initially of two of the branches of the retail outlet. And later on, he became the national sales leader. So he was in charge of all 14 outlets in the country. And he was just an incredible guy. And he had prior sales experience before coming to this company. So he was, what you would refer to as a sales veteran, as a sales, legendary sales kind of type person. And I'm always inspired by those people who have been there and done that. And so I thought maybe I would have understood if he had told me, look, I'm two levels above your pay grade. Why don't you ask someone else to give you this advice? But he really was a kind guy, and he really saw that I wanted to do a better job, and he had no hesitation to, yeah, share those wisdoms with me.
What you just shared, I hope that our audience, when they listen to that, see the importance as a leader, as a manager. We give words of advice, words of wisdom, share the kindness of, like to help other people to see how they can accelerate in their career. Because later on, for 20 something years, you still remember exactly the three things that he gave you something years ago. And I'm sure along the way, your words of wisdom carries to other people, to help them grow also. All right. So we bring you to the next topic is about, the transition, to writing. What made you write that book?
Yeah, well, stupidity, I guess, is the short answer. I really thought when I had the idea to write a book, I thought, okay, this is gonna take me a year, right? I mean, what's the big deal? I want to write a book about a topic that I feel deeply passionate about. I feel decently knowledgeable about the topic at the same time. And I'm an ambitious guy. Whatever I put in my mind, I'm eventually going to achieve it. So I thought of this project to be a year-long project. And of course, I didn't tell anyone. Thank God I didn't tell anyone, because that would have been the biggest embarrassment of my life. It took me 7 years from start to finish to publish this book. And it was very hard. It was a lot harder than I ever imagined it would be. Because up until that point, I mean, I had written a few articles, some blog posts here and there. I actually contributed a chapter to two other people's books. So those were the kind of books that they reach out to 12 different people. Everyone submits a chapter, and then that becomes the kind of the book. So I thought it's the same effort times 12 times 14, and it's really not a big deal. Well, little did I know how hard it is for me, at least, to write a book. And yeah, I mean, 6 years struggling, really struggling. I think after 6 years, I had produced something like 64 pages. You can't really call it a book, can you? I mean, it's not much. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? I don't have enough life left in me to finish this book. I mean, if you think of it, 10 pages a year, and a normal book has got what, 250 pages. That's another 19 years of writing. I cannot do this. So I was thinking about, how about I just publish this as a white paper, just to be done with it, you know? So that was what I had in my mind. And as the universe sometimes finds its magnificent ways to connect us, I was on a call with a fellow coach and HR leader. So this is a pandemic kind of, strange time where we would spend 12 hours per day on calls like this. And we were on a call prior to this one-on-one call, and she and I connected, and she suggested, hey, why don't we have a one-on-one call on the back end of that? And I said, sure, it works also for me. It's kind of end of play my time. Anyway, so she comes on the call and she's all like shining, smiling, and so on. And she said, look, I'm so happy. I thought I would let you know that I have just signed up with someone to write a book. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm not going to tell her anything about my misery of trying to write a book, because if I did tell her, she will not complete her book. And she's like, yeah, this guy is amazing. His name is Eric Costa. He's a professor at Georgetown University. And he has this incredible online book writing class he called the Creator Institute at the time. And there is more than 100 people of us. And we are dialing into weekly calls. And he's giving us some framework, some wisdom, some action. And then we are following up on those. And so I just kept quiet. I really didn't want to discourage her from writing a book. And she said, have you thought about writing a book? I would be happy to connect you with Eric. And I'm still thinking, I'm not going to tell her anything. This is going to be a big embarrassment. Anyway, and then she said something that really caught my attention. And she said, and you know what's the most incredible thing about this guy? He seems to have the most incredible Rolodex of thought leaders that he gets to come on live calls with us. We are going to have, so last week we had Reid Hoffman, the former CEO of Netflix, coming live on a call and speaking to us. We are going to have Steve Wozniak 2 weeks from now, number 2 employee at Apple, and he's going to talk to us about innovation and so on. And then later, I think in the month or next month, we're going to have Simon Sinek coming live and speaking to us. And I'm thinking, I mean, my chances of ever being on live calls with these kind of people is essentially zero. So that was really intriguing to me. Not the book professor, not the book writing class, none of that. I was just intrigued by the fact that I could be on live calls with all these thought leaders, gurus, and so on, and ask them questions. Anyway, so I said, yeah, why not? Why don't you connect us? And she did connect us. And I spoke to Eric. I did sign up for his book writing class at the time. It was a group version. He has stopped that format. He's now doing one-on-one work. And yeah, lo and behold, 6 months after that, not only did I produce another 180 pages to the 60 pages that I had produced prior to that, but my book became a #1 new release on Amazon on its first day of being launched. It became a bestseller in the US. It became a bestseller in the UK, in Germany, in Switzerland. And so it became a global bestseller very, very quickly. And I really credit a lot of my book success to Eric and his class and the way he worked with us, the frameworks he provided to us, the kind of the do's and don'ts he shared with us very kindly. And so, yeah, I mean, it was all in here somehow, somewhere. I just couldn't bring it to paper at the time. And yeah, Eric was an instrumental support to make it happen.
Yeah, wow. And you have to also give credit to yourself also, because a lot of people will just drop in, month 1, not even like year 6, right? So even if progress is slow, but you're not giving up, you're not,
Yes.
throw it away.
Yes.
And many people.
You know what? Yeah,
Yes.
the failure rate, if you want to look at it as a failure rate, is 97%. So for 100 people who have the ambition and the desire to want to write a book, only 3% publish it. And he shared that with us in one of the first lessons. He said it's a higher failure rate than jet fighter pilots, nuclear scientists. You can think of any profession, they have a high likelihood of succeeding than being a published author.
Yeah. Wow. And then becoming a coach, becoming number one coach also. And how could anything that you do, you touch, becoming like really flowering like that? Huh?
Yeah. Look, I don't want to create the illusion that, yeah, if you want it, you're going to get it. And another fun fact I can share with you and your audience is I spent 20 years in this wonderful function of the human resources department. And I really, I mean, I had hair before I went into HR. Look at me now. So I really gave it everything I had. On the day, it was some dates in July 22, when I announced I'm retiring from the HR active duty, I received my very first award in the field of HR. It was a really precious one because that is a peer nominated award. So you have to have a lot of HR directors and CHROs saying, Navid is the guy that we want, to acknowledge. And so on the day I, announced my retirement from active duty as an HRD, the HR magazine named me HR's most influential practitioner. So what I want to say with that, and this is my kind of piece of encouragement to you and everyone else who's listening to this, is that, do not give up. And, you may get to places in very unexpected ways. I certainly did never plan to become a full-time coach. The day I decided I wanted to embark on a coach education journey was that I had the desire and ambition to become a better, a more effective leader, a more well-rounded, more holistic leader. That was all I wanted. And of course, for the first 9 years, I was only coaching on the side, right? And only when I decided to jump ship, then that turned me into a full-time coach. And shortly after that, I received this wonderful nomination from CEO Today. So again, I was a coach for 9 years. Nobody gave me any cookies for that. And it took me 9 years and, 150 clients later that then, someone acknowledged that, this guy is probably a good one. And so we might as well acknowledge him in that way.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that inspiring message. That leading me to the next question, which is our dream. Because my wife and I, we have a dream of helping people to improve their ability to think. Because we know that thinking is important. If we can help people to improve their ability to think, then they can make better decisions and maybe the outcome can be better, right? So how have you been growing your ability to think over the years, Navid?
Yeah, look, I mean, I stay super sharp in this field. I do not assume anything. Yes, I have an international best-selling book on the topic, and that is my coaching topic. But that does not mean that I do not speak and work and am coached by other people in the same field. And so, again, one of the things I've recently started is to deliver a specific training for coaches that want to learn all about my methodology and want to become the most competent transition coaches they could be. And when I was speaking to a fellow coach the other day, he said something that I felt was not really the right thing to say. He said, "Oh, that is so silly of you. You're giving away all your deepest trade secrets." And see, that comes from someone with a fixed mindset, which is like, oh, I'm gonna all keep it to myself and I'm gonna, just give a little bit away in my book and the rest is kind of, it's like a Coca-Cola recipe. It's like deep in my safe and nobody's is going to be able to get to that. I actually do the opposite because I feel that if you have the mindset of abundance, amazing things are going to happen to you. I mean, I have endorsed 2 other books that are touching on the same topic that were published after my book published. I actually have a slide. I recommend those books to my coaches that are coming to me to learn everything about this topic, because I feel that this is an evolving field, and any perspective that I deem appropriate and helpful is a nice one to add to everything that I have been written up. And so it really is important to stay sharp, stay fresh. I never work with more than 20 or 24 leaders in a year, because that really gives me 1 or 2 coaching conversations a day. I try to look after myself, well-being, nutrition, sleep, exercise. These are all important things to me. And so I try to be at the top of my game so that I can deliver the most value to my clients and their companies at the same time.
Wow. Thank you so much. And then your works, and also I think the people you mentioned earlier, Eric and other people also, their work is to help other people to succeed, right? And to build something that's sustainable in the future also. And recently, we didn't know why we had this idea, but we acquired a platform called sustainabilitymind.com. So we believe that if we can build the mind thinking about sustainability, then whatever we do today will lead us to something that builder in the future, lasting on the future also. And I want to pick your brain on how do you think about a sustainability mind?
Mm. Yeah, look, it's the currency of today and tomorrow, right? I mean, I supported the finance function in my last 5 years as a global head of HR, and I really learned a lot about how to sustainably manage your profit and loss analysis. And so, really, your P&L, you can go up and down and do this and that, but that's gonna, not create a great amount of trust and confidence in the investors and the shareholders and so on. So sustainability in every aspect is key. I mean, what I say is that my passion lies in supporting executives during critical transitions, and I'm always inspired by their courage to deliver value to their organizations while staying true to their authentic selves. And so if you go around and do the 360 on these leaders, it's really sometimes remarkable what their bosses, the direct reports, and their peers have to say about their leadership and the impact they have in a positive way. And so, yeah, it's all about, sustainable leadership, sustainable results. They're all interconnected. And I don't think anyone has figured out the magic formula. But as they say, with anything that you start to manifest in your kind of practice and your habits and routine, the more you think about it, the more likely you are that whatever you are going to achieve is going to be more sustainable.
Beautiful, beautiful. I know that our time is up, so I just have one last question. I'm not sure if it's okay to ask, or maybe we'll save it for another time.
I'm good to do the final question for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'd like to travel time with you for one last time, and I want to bring you to your 13 years old, the day, the evening or the afternoon that you came back home and you had that big conversation with your parents that you need to move out to a new country. And there's a lot of anxious there for sure. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of worrisome. There's a lot of, different mix of feelings back there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now me now today, we travel time. We walk into that room. We're going to meet you at 13 years old. You're going to meet your mom, your father at that table. And you're going to tell them about the future that Navid is going to do. And maybe some words of advice, some words of wisdom that you can transfer back to that young Navid. What is that you are going to tell?
Well, I guess it will be something along line, trust that everything is going to work out. And so just give your best and the rest will take care of itself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't think that only that young Navid is needing it, and then a lot of people today is needing it in the world full of changing, full of disturbing at the moment. Right, so thank you so much for spending your time joining our program and sharing your wisdom, your stories, and a lot of beautiful tips and that help us to expand our thinking in here. And I look forward to seeing you and your family in person. And if that happens, that will be wonderful. And I believe that's going to happen sometime soon. So let's make a plan for it. Okay. Have a
All
beautiful
right.
day. Yeah. Say hello to your family for us, please.
I will. Thank you again for inviting me to your show. It's been my pleasure, and I hope this is going to be, one of the better episodes for your listeners, and hopefully some of the things I've shared are going to be helpful for them as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. And please say hello to your family for us. Okay.
I will. All the
Thank you.
best. Take care.
All
Bye bye.
right.